and gentlemen, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. This is actually the first group of people that's actually utilizing these brand new chairs that
I'm
just
talking about took place about 75 years ago. The number of survivors and witnesses to the Holocaust is dwindling very fast, and very soon the word Holocaust will become an abstract word. Spielberg, in order to record the testimony of the surviving witnesses. The video of the interview is in the archives of the foundation at the University of Southern California. 5 years later, I wrote the abbreviated version of my experiences. Each story of the survivor is unique and different. Here is my story, which I would like to share with you. It was August 1939. In a few weeks, I am going to start school, and I'm looking forward to it after a long vacation. Although I lived in Warsaw, the capital of Poland, I am spending the summer vacation in a small town about 150 miles northwest of Warsaw by the name of Grajewo, which is about 2 miles from the German border of East Prussia. I was born here, as were my 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My family owns a factory just on the outside of the town, manufacturing all kinds of elasticized products. With my grandfather on my mother's side, Wolf Heppner, established the factory at the turn of the century. All the machinery came from Germany, as well as the nucleus of German operating personnel. By 1939, the factory is the largest in Poland in this particular industry, working 2 shifts, 6 days a week. My uncle runs this end of the business, and my father runs the sales office in Warsaw. My grandmother, who passed away just 2 months ago, runs the farm consisting of about 20 acres of arable land surrounding the factory. We have horses, we have cows, chickens, we have our own milk, all kinds of cheese, butter and eggs. I am the youngest of 5 children. My oldest sister Rachel, 14 years my senior, is here, as are my 2 brothers, Leopold and Norbert, 10 and 12 years older than I, and another sister, Charlotte, just 2 years my senior. The older of my brother Norbert, who is a mechanical engineer, is now learning the business, as he is supposed to take over it eventually. He started his studies at the University of Vilna in Poland. It was very difficult to survive the Holocaust whenever the Jews lived, but it was particularly difficult to survive in Poland. It was very difficult if you were a man. The majority of Poles were very anti-Semitic. They did not collaborate with the Germans, but they were silent and in most cases approved witnesses. However, there was also a minority of Poles who helped and saved thousands of Jews. My father and mother were saved by two Catholic families. The Memorial Museum Yad Vashem in Jerusalem has a registry of about 25,000 people called the righteous Gentiles of the nations. Those are people who saved and helped the Jews at great danger to themselves. As such, acts were punishable by death in Poland. About 15,000 of them were the Poles. I had the privilege of meeting one of them. His name was Jan Karski. About 20 years ago, as I was walking in Southampton, I came to the public library in Southampton, which was at the time at the corner of Jobs Lane and Main Street. And in the front they had few tables with books for sale. I found there a book called The Story of a Secret State by Jan Karski. It has been a book of the mass selection in 1944. It was a fascinating book, and I decided to find and meet the author. I found him in Washington, D.C., at Georgetown University, where he was professor of international studies. We became very good friends, and I met him many times for the next 20 years. In 1942, Jan Karski was a courier between the Polish underground in Poland and the Polish government in exile in London. At this time, the Europe occupied by Germany, the final solution was implemented to the utmost. Thousands of Jews from all over Europe were arriving at the concentration camps in Poland, and mass murder of those Jews took place, as well as the Polish Jews. The Polish underground were fully aware of the German government decision to implement the final solution. They wanted Karski to be the first witness to the atrocities committed by the Germans in Warsaw, in Poland. He wanted them to be a witness to the Western world for the plight of the Jewish people. Karski was smuggled to the Warsaw ghetto, where he met with the leaders of the Jewish organization. They asked him to convey to Jews leaders in the West the tragic situation of the Jews in Europe. As nothing could have been written, Karski, who had a phenomenal memory, absorbed all the information. Karski was also able to enter a concentration camp in the disguise of a Latvian guard and witness the fate of the Jews there. After completing his preparation, Karski left for London. After traveling for 6 weeks through Germany, Belgium, France, Spain, Gibraltar, Karski arrived in London. Upon arrival in London, he reported to the Polish government in exile. He also met with the members of the British government also testified before the United Nations War Crimes Commission. He also met with Jewish members of the National Polish Council, Shmuel Zygielbojm, who was also representative of the most important Jewish political party in Poland, the Socialist Bund. Just before he left London, Karski learned that Zygielbojm committed suicide, leaving a note saying that he tried to help the Jews in Poland as much as he could, but he couldn't do anything, and he wanted to be with them. After spending 2 months in London, the Polish government sent Karski to the United States. In New York, he met with leaders of the Jewish community, including Nahum Goldman, president of the World Jewish Congress, and Rabbi Weiss, and others, and then went to Washington, D.C. The Polish ambassador there arranged a meeting with President Roosevelt. Karski described to the president the situation in Poland and satisfied his curiosity as to how he was able to travel through occupied Europe from Warsaw to London. Roosevelt assured Karski that independent Poland would be restored once the Allied defeats Germany. He also suggested that Karski see his friend, Superior Court Justice Felix Frankfurter. The meeting was arranged, and Karski, accompanied by the Polish ambassador, met Justice Frankfurter at the Supreme Court. Karski told him about the concentration camp he visited in Poland, told him about the death factories of Auschwitz, Majdanek, Treblinka and Belzec, and about the meeting with Polish Jewish leaders. Justice Frankfurter listened attentively, then got up from his chair, walked over to Karski. He pointed a finger at him and said, "Young man, you seem to be a nice, honest and trustworthy man, but I don't believe you." The interview ended and Karski and the ambassador left. Later, reflecting on the meeting with the Justice Frankfurter, Karski understood his and many other people's reaction to the report of the mass murder taking place in Poland. It was unprecedented in the history of mankind, and the human mind couldn't absorb and accept the terrible truth. The French cinematographer Claude Lanzmann, who made the movie Shoah about Holocaust, also made a documentary called The Karski Report, in which Karski described his interviews with President Roosevelt and Justice Frankfurter. This documentary was shown in New York a few years ago. The last time I met Karski, it was in the Israeli embassy in Washington, when he was made an honorary citizen of Israel. Young Karski, a deeply religious man,